What's up, all you beautiful people? Welcome to another video. I want to talk about how to hyperfocus, how to overcome procrastination, and how to achieve anything. Now, what I'm going to outline for you guys is some high-level concepts around focus, or what I call hyperfocus, and then I'm going to get into a very detailed 6-step plan that you can use to overcome procrastination and actually get your ass moving back towards your goals. And this is critical because the very first principle that I want to share with you, we're gonna frame this as the 10 Commandments of Hyperfocus, right? There's 10 commandments. If you figure these 10 things out, you are not going to be a victim of distraction, of feeling overwhelmed. People aren't going to be able to use you for their own purposes in the form of like scrolling social media, right? You're going to be able to claim your attention and direct it with intention, which at the end of the day is critical because commandment number 1 of hyperfocus is time is not your most valuable asset. You must guard your most valuable asset, and that starts by actually understanding what is your most valuable asset. Now, most people, they will tell you time is your most valuable asset, but it's wrong. Time is the wrong frame to operate from because time is not something you actually own or control. It's an ephemeral concept that if I told you right now, like, give me 10 minutes of your time, like, it's not something practical that you actually do. And so time is not your most valuable asset. I used to think attention was your most valuable asset because attention is the thing that allows you to use your time. Depending on what you focus on, where you deploy your attention is going to dictate what results you get. But there's actually something even more fundamental than that, which is energy. Energy is your most fundamental, most valuable asset. If you have no energy, you are dead, right? That's how we define death effectively, right? So the quantity and quality of your energy dictates the quantity and quality of your focus, and where you deploy your focus dictates what kind of results you're ultimately going to get. So the first thing is understanding your most valuable asset is energy. Now, the second commandment of hyperfocus here is to observe your focus leaks. Another way of putting this is to observe your energy leaks. Where are you going throughout your day right now where your focus, your attention, your energy is being stolen from you or it's being diluted? That could be I get distracted in the morning when I wake up first thing and I grab my phone and I'm walking to get my coffee and the first thing I'm opening is social media and I'm finding that I'm scrolling. Or maybe it's I'm getting on the toilet between meetings and I'm going directly to my phone and getting pulled into emails and Slack messages, right? Where are you losing focus right now? Where are you losing energy? Now, energy is a really interesting way to think about this because I want you to think about where is your energy the highest throughout the day? Where is it the lowest throughout the day? Most of us don't actually think in those terms, and we don't think about, am I pairing the right activity, the right task with the energy state that I'm in currently? So if you're early in the morning and you're in a high creative energy state, that would be a good time to go do your creative work, right? In the afternoon, after lunch, you're a little bit lower energy. That might be a good time to do the administrative work that doesn't require you to be operating at your peak mental performance, right? But think about this. When was the last time you opened your emails first thing in the morning? That's probably not super helpful. You're in your peak energy state and you're doing an activity that does not require you to be in your peak energy state. So observe your focus leaks, observe your energy leaks. Number 3, the third commandment of hyperfocus is to understand that energy fuels focus. And I already discussed this one in the first commandment, but it's so important that we're going to revisit it. Energy fuels focus. The more energy that you have, the more you're going to be able to focus and for extended periods of time. And so that means you need to get really clear about what are the levers of energy you have at your disposal to pull at any given moment. There's 3 really big levers in particular that I want you to think about. First is your sleep. Your sleep is the number 1 most powerful thing that you can do to fill up your energy reservoirs with high quality energy throughout the day. If you get not enough sleep, low quality sleep, then you're already behind the 8 ball when you wake up. So sleep is number 1. Number 2 is nutrition. The food that you put into your body is fuel. If you put junk into your fuel tank, then you get shitty performance out of it, right? Third thing is exercise. Actually moving your body has a way of generating energy. So understand energy fuels focus, and so do everything within your power to maximize those 3 levers of energy. Number 4, the fourth commandment of hyperfocus is that you got to close cognitive loops. Cognitive loops are the things that you are perseverating on throughout the day. That I have to have this conversation with so and so. I have this to-do list over here. I need to remember to reach out to such and such about this thing, right? All of those thoughts that are going through your head right now, you need to have a way of closing those loops so that your brain can be deployed towards the thing that actually needs your attention in the moment. Best way to do this is just to keep something called a second brain. And the second brain is a fancy name, which really just means I want you to brain dump everything inside your brain onto a piece of paper or into like Notion or Asana. It doesn't matter what you use. Just have a way of actually taking those thoughts as you have them. Oh, I need to reach out to so-and-so. Write it down. Get it out of your mind. Your brain is a terrible storage device. It's not designed for storing thoughts. Got to have a second place for that. Your brain is great for making creative connections, to have insights, but it can't do that if it's constantly trying to hold on to all these open cognitive loops. Number 5, the 5th commandment of hyperfocus is that you have to always have clear priorities, because when everything feels equal, of equal importance, then number 1, you feel overwhelmed because your attention is being pulled equally in 6 different directions. So you need to have a way of looking at those six things objectively, rank ordering them, and deciding, okay, actually, that is the most important one. This one down here, this 6th one, is not on the top of the list. Therefore, I should deploy the majority of my focus and my energy towards that top priority activity. There's a lot of different systems that you can use for this. A really simple one is something called ICE, which stands for impact, confidence, and ease. It's a way of actually rank ordering the activities so that you can have an objective measure of what is, in fact, the highest priority. Number 6 is don't set goals, set implementation intentions. So an implementation intention is something that psychologists found is that it's just a simple, if this happens, then I will do X. So if I feel the urge to smoke a cigarette, instead I will do X, Y, Z. And what it's doing is it's creating a if-then statement for you so that you recognize when triggered by this external event, here's what I'm going to do instead. When it comes to owning your focus and directing it with intention, you got to be really careful that you avoid distractions, right? That's the number one thing that stops us from remaining focused, is something distracts us. So we need to have these if-then statements. If I feel the urge to scroll social media while I'm in the middle of writing, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start a timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to stop writing. I'm going to start the timer. I'm going to put the phone in front of me, and I'm just going to sit there and wait. And at the end of that 5 minutes, if I still feel like scrolling social media, I can do that. If at some point, and as that 5 minutes is ticking down, I decide, actually, I don't want to wait anymore, I'd rather just go back to writing, then go back to writing, right? So that's an example of an implementation intention. Instead of saying, my goal is to not scroll social media today, you say, when I get this trigger, this is what I'm going to do instead. That will serve you far, far better. In fact, the research shows, I believe people that set implementation intentions are 70% more likely to actually stay on task and achieve the goal that they set for themselves. So number 7 is have an intention maintenance protocol. One of the things that happens when we get distracted, when we get pulled off task, and for me with my ADHD brain, this has been so damn true, is just, it happens without us even realizing it. You get distracted, you pull out the phone and you're scrolling social media before you even realized. And so it's one thing to set the implementation intention, but it only works if you actually catch yourself doing the thing, right? So you have to have awareness. Oh crap, I grabbed the phone. But if you just blinked and all of a sudden you found yourself on social media scrolling, you're like, holy crap, how'd this happen, right? It's because your intention got stolen from you at some point, and your brain is very sneaky about how it goes about this. One of the tools that I used when I first started learning how to harness my ADHD and turn it into a superpower rather than a weakness was by setting random alarms in my phone to go off every couple of hours, along with the question that said, what's my outcome? And the idea was just to pattern interrupt. It was to try and catch me in those moments when I was scrolling by accident, or I was doing something that wasn't in alignment with the intention I had previously set for myself. So that could be, if it went off in the middle of a meeting, let's say, and it says, what's my outcome? It gives you this moment of self-reflection to ask, like, okay, what is the purpose of me being here in this meeting right now? right? Like, why am I here? What am I hoping to get out of it? Is it just information? Is it to come up with and make a decision on a direction that we need to go next and then actually make sure that we're moving towards that? Like, what is the goal of this meeting? And am I being fully present? Am I deploying my attention towards that goal in a way that's likely to lead me towards my desired outcome or away from it? And it's surprising just how often that random alarm will go off on your phone and you'll find like, holy crap, I'm scrolling Facebook. I don't even know how I got here, right? And so we need to have this kind of randomized system for catching our brain's tendency to lull us into complacency. So number 7 is to have an intention maintenance protocol. The 8th commandment of hyperfocus is to lift mental weights every single day. You got to get into the mental gym, do some heavy lifting in the same way that you would for your physical body, right? You need to hone the muscle of focus. And there's so many different ways that you can do this. You can do it through journaling, any practice that forces you to sit down and slow down. So meditation is great for this. Reading a book can be great for this. But at the end of it, it's really just a matter of doing something that forces your brain to concentrate for extended periods of time. And that usually means doing something that you don't want to do, right? Because your brain doesn't really want to concentrate. But you got to figure out, what are the mental weights that I could lift every single day that would help me develop that focus muscle. The 9th commandment of hyperfocus is to create containers for greatness. Now, another way of saying this is to design your environment. Now, there's a bunch of different levels of containers inside of your life right now. You have the container of the country that you live in. You have the container of the city that you live in, or the state that you live in. And underneath that is your city. And underneath that is your neighborhood. And underneath that is your apartment. Underneath of that is your office, right? There's all of these sub-containers for greatness. And the first thing I would suggest is that for the really big containers of what country you live in, what state you live in, what city you live in, you spend a lot of time focusing and answering that question, because that's one of the biggest determinants of your long-term success, and your network is going to be defined on where you live in the world. But then as we narrow down to your neighborhood and into the apartment that you live in, into the office that you set up, like at each one of those levels, there's things that you can do that increase the likelihood that you're going to be able to own your focus, own your concentration, and not get distracted. For a lot of us, you could just start right now at the smallest level of your office or your home living situation. What is your office designed for right now? Is it designed to keep you locked into a state of high level focus, or is it designed for entertainment, for comfort, for distraction? Right? Start there. I've done other videos. I'd recommend just going to the channel, searching for environment design, and you can find some videos where I talk about specifically how to set this up. But it's actually the easiest thing that you can do that increases your probability of staying focused and resisting distractions. The 10th commandment of hyperfocus is to always have a focus ritual, to have a routine that you execute whenever you plan on going into high focus required effort. Instead of just sitting down to try and write a book and saying, today I'm going to write 3,000 words, instead of just sitting down cold turkey and trying to write 3,000 words, you're going to pull your mental muscle. You should ease into it. You ease into it in the same way that an athlete or a performer would before going onto stage or onto the court. They do a warm-up routine, right? And so there's a bunch of different focus rituals that you can go through, but you need to figure out what works for you, whether that's I quickly clean off my desk, and then I light a candle, and then I put on my noise-canceling headphones, and I turn on white noise, and then I flip a coin, and whichever side it lands on, I don't know why you'd flip a coin, but maybe I don't know what your ritual is, but you need to have one so that you're telling your mind, okay, now it's time to do this hard thing. And then instead of just diving straight into the hard thing, do something that's hard but similar, but like a little bit easier to the thing that you want to do, and then scoot over into the hard thing. So if that's in the case of writing, instead of just trying cold turkey to start writing really hard, just do a little bit of light journaling, just a little bit of light stream of conscious writing, and then go over to the hard writing. But no self-respecting high-level athlete goes onto the court without doing a warm-up, and neither should you. You are a mental worker, a mental athlete, so start acting like it. Okay, now, those are the 10 commandments of hyperfocus. Let's talk about how to overcome procrastination. We're going to fly through this. There's 6 steps. It's very simple. Number 1, you need to become aware that you are procrastinating, right? Like I mentioned it before, is that Your brain is really sneaky. It takes you off track without you even realizing this. The number one tool that it has for distracting you is just lulling you into complacency. So we need to have a pattern interrupt. That's your intention maintenance protocol. That's the what's my outcome, right? We need to program that into our alarm so that we can catch ourselves when we're procrastinating. But step one, you got to become aware of it, and you got to claim it with step two. You got to reclaim your intention, which is to say, why is it that you want to do the thing that you're currently procrastinating? If you're procrastinating, it's because your brain hasn't connected the long-term pleasure as being greater than the short-term pain you will experience in doing the thing. For instance, you probably don't procrastinate eating ice cream, right? Like nobody's ever procrastinated. Like the moment you want ice cream, you get ice cream, right? But everybody procrastinates going to the gym. Why is that? Because going to the gym is long-term good for you, but short-term hard, right? And so that's typically all the things that you procrastinate are long-term good for you, short-term hard. And the way that you get over that short-term hard is just by reminding yourself why it's important in the first place. Connect deeply to the emotional why behind why you want to go to the gym. I don't want to be decrepit when I'm old. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to be able to run around and enjoy my body and not be hurting. As soon as you connect yourself to that deep why, it gets so much easier to overcome the procrastination, which will lead you then to step three. We are aware that we are procrastinating. Two, we have reclaimed our intention. I know I need to go to the gym because here's why it's important to me. Next, you need to define the objective. What does it look like to win? Be very clear about this. Say, going to the gym right now, if I can get to the gym in the next 5 minutes and work out for at least 10 minutes and get my heart rate up into 120 beats per minute for that 10 minutes, that would be a win. Get really crystal clear about what it is that you expect of yourself rather than making it this big, scary, hairy monster that you can't quite see. Let's say you want to write a book. I want to write a book because I want to make this impact in the world. I have this idea that I've gone through. I want to share it with other people so that they can get the lessons without the scars, right? Okay, cool. I want to sit down and write today because I know writing is key to getting the book done. However, if I just sit down with the objective of writing, oh, good golly, Miss Molly, that's just really open-ended. Instead, if I say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 500 words on this particular aspect. I'm going to talk about this one narrow thing. I'm going to write for 500 words. Boom. Now you've defined the objective in a small, easy way for you actually to take action, right? Now, once you've defined the objective, step 4 is to set the tiny goal. So I know the objective is to write the book. I've connected to the why. I want to sit down and write 500 words on this narrow topic. But my next tiny goal, the tiny step that I can take in the next 30 seconds is I'm going to go to my computer. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to unplug it from the monitor. I'm going to open the Word document so that the only thing that's on my screen is the Word document. I'm going to do that in the next 30 seconds. And I don't even have to write at this point. I just got to go unplug it from the monitor, set the one word processor up, a little blank page, and that is the tiny goal. Step 5 is set a timer. Set a timer so that you create a constraint. Instead of it being this open-ended, I'm going to write indefinitely. Say I'm only going to write for the next 15 minutes. And my goal is I'm going to get 500 words in this narrow topic, but in the next 30 seconds, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down, I'm going to open the word processor, right? You're creating these smaller steps and you're creating constraints for yourself because a lot of times we get overwhelmed and procrastinate because we're not clear on what needs to happen next and in what order. What are those tiny little actions that we could take that would actually lead us to where we want to go? So we want to define that all very, very clear. Which brings us then to the sixth and final step. Also the most important one, which is just fucking get started. Just fucking do it. Stop thinking about it. You've done everything up to this point. You're aware that you're procrastinating. You've reclaimed your attention. You've defined the objective. You set a tiny goal. You set the timer. Now fucking just do it. Stop negotiating with your weaker self. Just sack up and do the work. I'm telling you, within just 30 seconds to a minute of sitting down and actually doing the work, it's going to get much easier. You're going to feel much better about yourself. The hardest part is actually showing up and sitting down. So that is the 10 Commandments of Hyperfocus and how to overcome procrastination so that you, my friend, can achieve absolutely anything. Let me know down below. What'd you like most? What'd you need to hear? And I will see you guys in the next video.